Well, good morning, folks, and welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Tuesday, October 15th, 2022. I'm sorry, 2024. And this is episode 962 of Living Free in Tennessee. And it's a Tuesday coffee day. So I got my hollow roast on hand to keep me energized through this discussion. And we're going to talk to Jessica Hinton, who has been the powerhouse behind all of the efforts going on over on Roan Mountain and within our network. Really, like she's focused there, but there's always questions about other ways to help, and she's been awesome as a resource for all of our network. We're going to talk about what the rebuilding is looking like in Tennessee, as well as I'm going to ask her some questions about work she did in Paradise, California, because there's something she doesn't know about me that she did not learn last night that she will learn on this show. Before we jump into that, though, I want to talk about our featured event of today's show, and it is the Partnering with Trees on the Permaculture Homestead workshop we're doing right here at the Holler Homestead, November 2nd. If you want to grab tickets to that, they are over at livingfreeintennessee.com. Carrie Brown from Strong Roots Resources is going to be talking to us about all the different roles your trees can have on the property, how to make a plan for that, how to do your site scan of your own property so you source the best trees for what you want them to do. And then after the class, you can go home, or you can watch us plant like 6 trees on my property, because we're augmenting what's already here. So it's not like a big project, and it's not like me charging you money to do my work for me. We're putting 6 trees in. You can see how we plant them, which is an important part of the class. But more important is making the right choices to begin with. That's at livingfreeintennessee.com. November 2nd starts at 10 in the morning, and you'll be able to drive home afterwards. I'm located in Lancaster, Tennessee. I also want to thank our 2 sponsors of today's show. The first sponsor is John Pugliano and the Wealth Steading Podcast. If you are interested in investing your money and learning how he invests his money, no matter what's going on in the world, his podcast is for you, because he shares how he's making his investment decisions. He's a great guy, been a supporter of this podcast since the moment we were born, basically. Check out more at thewealthsteadingpodcast.com. Our second sponsor of today's show, it's all about the water, right? That's right. It's the kangenwatercollective.com. Go check out their write-ups on the hydrogen water I've been using and the machine I use to make water. That's made me feel better. It has not fixed all of my stuff, but it's certainly helped me feel better every day. I'm better hydrated, and it's got antioxidant properties, so it's pretty cool. Check it out, kangenwatercollective.com. With that, I'm going to bring Jessica into the show so we can hop to it. And remember, guys, if you have questions for us about what's going on, write the word question in all caps. Okay. Jessica, welcome to Living Free in Tennessee's Tuesday Coffee. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Great. Do you even drink coffee? We didn't cover that yesterday.
No, I'm a chai tea drinker. But I've been trying to limit my sugar intake, so it's almost like I'm a chai tea-aholic, and I'm trying to hold back on it. So my husband loves coffee, and he's drinking your coffee right now. So
awesome. So I could tell by the look on your face when I'm like, it's Tuesday coffee, and she's like, I don't have coffee. I'm like, yeah, she's one of my tea drinking people. There's a whole like subset of tea drinkers in the Living Free in Tennessee network, and it's kind of funny because when we have a coffee booth, they're like, do you have tea here too, Nicole? I'm like, do I ever have tea here too? Like at my events, we have hot water and we have tea offered, and people usually have their specific tea they want, so they just bring it. But we also have tea offered. Yeah. And it's, people have been known to hide tea in my house, and I end up with a really eclectic tea collection here.
That's cool.
So let's talk about Paradise. Yesterday, we met in person for the first time, and you said that you had worked on the Paradise rescue stuff.
Yes.
Professionally. And not everybody who listens to this podcast knows, but Paradise was hit by a wildfire that tore through the town very suddenly. A lot of people didn't get out because there aren't a lot of roads into and out of Paradise, California. And we did a show right after that because my cousin lives there. And I was very proud of her for getting out and knowing what to do the minute it was clear she had to get out. My aunt and uncle lost everything and happened to be off on a trip in their RV and never rebuilt their home because the fire just took out everything. So we had an interesting conversation about that. So tell me, what did you do after the Paradise fire? I'm curious. I didn't bring that up at dinner because I'm like, we're going to be talking for another hour if I bring this up. I got to go to fire.
So I was in the California Air National Guard, and I got there was a call, hey, they need us in Paradise, and so I signed up and was out of the house within 48 hours. And I was a single mom at the time, so I had my daughters. A friend watched my daughters while I was up there, and I was up there for 2 weeks, but with a week in between, so a week, and then I came home for a week to kind of organize my life again, and then I went back out for the second week. And I'm a refrigeration mechanic. That's what I learned in the Air Force. So I was in the National Guard. So I worked 2 days a month and 2 weeks a year. And then we helped out when disaster relief items like this. And so I was a refrigeration mechanic. We went and built huge tents that could sleep 20 to 30 people in the tent. We had cots that we set up. And so we would go from different location to different location to set up housing for these people who were displaced. We set it for people. We even set it up for animals. And I think our animals was one of our favorite tents that we set up. We had cages of rabbits and dogs and cats. And we got to, see, and they were lost. They didn't have owners. And so we were in there loving on them and, just giving that enjoyment. So yeah, Paradise. And that's actually where I met my husband, was serving at Paradise. He actually went and volunteered for the same call. And so we both have hearts of helping people. And he's an electrician. So he was putting all the electrical work on the tents, and I was keeping them cool. So we were tag teaming on all these jobs together. And I was like, who is this handsome guy?
Yeah, now you know exactly who he is.
Yeah, now I do. Very well. The good and the bad.
Well, what my cousin said about the Paradise fire is what happened in Paradise is the winds changed and the fire just took over the town before they could evacuate the town. So there wasn't notice really to get out.
They were telling me to stay.
Yeah. And when she realized she needed to get out, she said, I grabbed every dog I could, threw it in my car, and drove.
Mm.
And that meant like no time to go to your safe and get your precious items, like nothing. She just got out of there. She knew the guys working the fire and stopped and talked to them on the way out of town, which is why she got out of town safely, because she went the other way. And had she not had connections in the community and the ability to make that decision quickly, despite what the official word was to do, she probably would have died or been hurt a lot, right? And so this kind of goes back to, how long did it take the National Guard to get there to start helping after the fire happened?
I think it was 3 or 4 days for us to get up there. We have to stop our lives and, get our own family situation figured out, and then we drove up. We were 10 hours away. So we had to then get in a convoy and drive up with all of our equipment. We had to stage it all. It wasn't, who knew? So we had to line it all up and get it up there and itemize everything,
And 3 days is not unreasonable. I mean, I critique FEMA for taking 5 days to get to the Helene area. But it's also understandable that getting everything somewhere takes some time. 3 days is not unreasonable. What were the people doing for those 3 days who were there?
The people who were displaced?
The people, yeah. The fire had gone through. The fire was gone. Some of them were still alive. What was there for them for those 3 days?
People, community.
Yeah.
And a lot of the community was already demolished. And so Chico was a larger town that was south of Paradise. And so Chico really stood up, and those people, give shirts off their backs and food out of their closets and actually housed a lot of the people for the first couple of days, trying to figure out situations for where they could go.
Yeah. And that's usually true in a disaster that comes up suddenly like this. It's not like the National Guard or anybody was pre-staged and ready to just drop in and help. I don't think they expected the town to get hit like that, and then it got hit like that. And the first responders, and I wanted to wear "You Are Your Own First Responder" shirt today, but it's in the laundry, and I wasn't going to put it on a dirty shirt for a live stream because then it's so gross. But that's what that shirt means, right? When there is an accident or a problem and you're involved, you are your own first responder. And if you've learned or are prepared to take action, you're going to help other people and you're going to help yourself better than waiting for the official help that will eventually come, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that means having some medical knowledge, being willing to act by bringing food and water and shelter and help and put people up in a disaster, because for the first few days, even though there is going to be some aid given, aid takes a while to get organized because you've got people leaving their normal lives, finding a babysitter for the kids, packing themselves up, making sure they know what supplies they're coming in with, and that takes time. But people are hungry and thirsty and need shelter right away. People need medical help right away. And I think that's a place where we cannot depend on the government to help us. We cannot depend on what's the official administrative systems, because they're not built for that.
Right.
They're not nimble enough. And the only way you know what to do is go look, find out what you need to do, and do. And so when Helene hit East Tennessee so much harder than anybody ever expected, like you were telling me the official rain count at the heaviest area was 42 inches in one day. So I haven't verified that, guys, but I'm just gonna trust that Jessica verified it somewhere. But feel free to verify it and let us know the real number. Even if it was 20 inches, that's way more water than falls in that region ever.
Yeah, it said 26. I think it was 26 is the average per year.
Yeah.
And then the heaviest area, well, I think was 42, I think it was. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what I was reading.
Yeah, like how much, like that's more than a foot of rain falling in 24 hours, having to go somewhere. And so, you know, some of the critiques have been like, why did these people stay in place when they knew the rains were coming? Because like 4 to 6 inches is what we get when we get a lot of rain. We don't get like 10x that. We don't get, 40. That's 10x 4 inches. And when we had the Nashville flood in 2010, I think they officially clocked somewhere around 18 inches over 2 days. It was over 20 inches here that we measured over 2 days. And, that caused people to drown in their own homes in Tennessee that didn't even know they were in a floodplain. So imagine somewhere where it basically never floods because they're high on the mountain and water drains downhill, getting 40 inches. And, some of them got 30, some of them got 20. That's still a whole boatload of, I would have said F ton, but I'm being nice today. That's a whole boatload of water at one time. And then when it goes down steep ravines, those steep ravines rise. And, a river rising a couple feet is a problem if it's not usually doing that. A river rising 12 to 20 feet is a totally different scale. And that's how you end up with cars in the tops of trees with dead people in the cars. And that's the things, those are the stories we're not really seeing on the news yet, unless somebody else is seeing them somewhere else. I'm seeing today, the AP put out that some dude answered his door with a gun on a rifle and told the FEMA guy to go pound sand and not come back. That's the story that came out. Not dead people in cars and trees, not communities going into the second cold night without heat or electricity or water or food. So just, setting the stage for this. So Jessica randomly popped out of the internet into my life 3 weeks ago because I was sitting there Saturday morning, which was the flooding had pretty much started Friday. And I was sitting there Saturday morning going, is this person alive? Is that, we're checking up on the network and, hearing reports back. And I came across somebody in Roan Mountain who we've worked with who was like, yeah, we're alive. There's a lot of destruction here. There's going to be rebuilding for a long time. People are displaced. And he had formerly owned the station at 19 East, which is a hiker's hostel, which means they have beds because they did not wash down the river, which means there was a place where people could stay if they wanted to come help. And I was like, okay, what do you really need right now? He's like, food, water, generator, because we don't have any power. But if we get power to the hostel, we can get cold water up and people can at least take a cold shower and flush toilets and stuff like that, which would be more than what they had. So that was Saturday morning. And I sat there for 15 minutes like this. Self-Reliance Festival. I was leaving for Self-Reliance Festival days later. And I just sat there like, There's all this stuff to do. There are 600 people coming to a festival in Camden who've paid money to have a good time at this festival. And I'm the primary manager of the festival. What do I do? And I'm like, from a business standpoint, what I should do is do the festival and pretend like the hurricane doesn't exist. But I can't, because people are literally dying. Like, they were still pulling people out of the mud on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday who were still alive. People who couldn't get out. And there was already some energy starting from y'all in the network about what can we do to help. And the worst thing we do is just drive out there without a plan and show up, because then you can become a burden. But we had intelligence on the ground about what roads were open. We had specific needs that could be met. And we had the capacity to start with one town and see what we could do. I was like, that's great. Let's start this Telegram group. Jessica jumps into the Telegram group. And I'm like, I also need somebody to manage all this, because I can manage it for the next couple of days, but there's going to be a point where, like, literally I run out of time. And she's like, well, I've done disaster relief. So Jessica, I was like, what did I do at that point?
She gave me all the keys.
You gave her all the keys to everything. I was like, don't make me look bad here.
Exactly.
So what did you think when you jumped into that? Were you like, this lady's crazy? Like, what were you thinking?
Well, so we live 3 hours from Roan Mountain. And so I saw everything was going on, and it was, we're on the other side of the mountain. So I was like, it could have been us. And I had, my heart is to help. That's why I was in the National Guard. And so I was talking to my husband, and I was like, babe, I don't know what we need to do, but we need to do something. I just feel like I can't sit here and not do anything. And he's like, what do you want to do? I was like, I don't know, but I want to do something. And then, so we prayed about it. We just stopped what we were doing. We just prayed to God and said, God, what can we do? And within 2 minutes later, I get a screenshot on my phone that came down. It was your podcast. And it said, talking about the hurricane. And I was like, well, what does she have to say about this? And so I click it open and listen. And the first 5 minutes was talking in need of a project manager to help oversee this mission. And I was like, oh my God, that was like an answer to prayer. I was just asking for this. And so I went out to my husband. I was like, so you know how we just prayed? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, well, I think I got it. And he's like, what? And I was like, she needs a project manager. That's what I am. I've been a project manager for a large solar company. I was a project manager for a large HVAC company. I did disaster relief in the military. I'm like, this is like right up my alley. And he's like, well, if you think you got it. I was like, oh, I know I got it. But I initially was a helper, right? That your neighbor was going to be the initial project manager. And then I saw everything going on. I was like, oh. And I'm kind of like, I can do that. And I can do that. The next thing I did, I was doing
it. I was just like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she was helping out with you with the event and everything. So I was like,
so she was totally like up to her elbows in making sure the event trailer was packed properly and organized and all this other stuff. And she's like, okay, I can help with this, but time. And then you just started doing it. I'm like, we're just going to let Jessica do it.
Yeah. So that's how it's all started. But when you gave me the keys, I was like, it was an answer to prayer. Like, this is what I was wanting to do. And I didn't have, your team is amazing. Like I just got thrown in this Telegram group, and there was all these people willing to help. And I can organize and orchestrate and logistics. I can do that. But it was the gathering of people that you had together that made my job so much easier. It was like, and it was almost like, hey guys, hold off. We've got too much going on. Let's hold it back a little bit to make sure they don't have too much stuff. So kudos to you and your team for, having such desire to help other people. And
they're not my team. They're just people who listen to the podcast. That's the funny part. It's just like, it's a great community of viewers. And they're just like, we are a team now. Like Mare pops up. She's like, we've got a church in Jonesboro where you can land with stuff. So we're not going up there with 90 cars. Right.
Yep. We had planes.
But we're going to be there Sunday morning in the middle of service. She's like, then I will walk out of church and I will help.
Yeah. It was wonderful to be. It's still wonderful to be part of the team. And I feel like now I'm part of the community. I'm like, hey guys.
Oh, you are. You're in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that first weekend, Kurt, who I saw was in the live stream, drove a load out, took my generator out there. And like another friend of mine from my CrossFit gym, the owner of the CrossFit gym, was like, "Hey, I'm coming out." His son and his dad came, and they gave out supplies from the station at 19 East. So how did that go down? How was it received? What sorts of things were we able to do early on?
So we got supplies they needed. Like you said, I brought on a Starlink, and so they were able to have internet. And the Starlink was actually then brought to the the command post. It was now is the First Baptist Church in Roan Mountain. They didn't have internet, so they got to bring that, and that's how they started the command post, was by having that Starlink before, Elon was able to bring out all of these other Starlinks, which was great. But we had one, so we were able to bring that up with a generator so they could use it. But the team, we had water and food and canned food, gasoline, diesel. It was just a plethora of items. So we first brought it to Station 19 East, and they had signed, because there was no internet at the time, and so it wasn't like they could blast it on Facebook or blast it on Telegram like, "Hey, we have it." So the guys are holding signs up saying, "We've got supplies," and people are driving in to go get the supplies. And it was just, I think the biggest thing was community helping community, and seeing neighbors helping neighbors. And we might not be next door neighbors, but we were close enough to be able to get to the area of need and offer that assistance that was so desperate at that time.
Did anybody ask anybody who they were voting for in order to get assistance?
No, we were all one community. It was pretty epic. Yeah. At that point,
I'm seeing a lot of politicization of this, and I'm like, stop that and just help the people. Like, who cares?
Yeah. And that was evident. It was like, you could just see, and the biggest thing was like, I mean, you had the Station 19E, that was a bar. That's a bar hostel, and they're helping people out, getting food over. Then you have all these churches that are coming together. It was like, where community gathers, it was those types of places that were really helping. They're used to having that community aspect. And so they knew the importance of being a community and helping each other out. And so, bars and churches, who would have thought, we're working hand in hand to make things happen.
There's absolutely no reason not to have that happen. I believe the revolution happened because people were talking in bars.
Yes.
Just saying. Yeah. It is a place. So communities have these natural hubs. I think something that's really important to have in place when you're delivering aid is a locus from which to operate, where you have real intelligence coming from the ground. Like, all the roads into Roan Mountain were marked as closed. And I was like, really? Those roads are open? He's like, listen, I just drove the road. This is how you go. But it was marked as closed on maps because I think they didn't want a bunch of people driving there. Mm-hmm. So having that local intelligence is important. And then when we gave away supplies that first day, as you said, it wasn't like we could just blast out on, we did blast out on Facebook that it was possible, but people, they didn't have cell networks. The only way they had to know was word of mouth in the area. And so I think once they started giving out supplies, people started driving out and telling people who could get out. But what did we discover that day about the local communities? Do you remember?
No, I don't.
Okay. So what we just, by being on the ground, by having people on the ground in person who were not from there to come back with information, we were gathering intelligence while we were there. And we found out people were still trapped in their homes, couldn't get out, with trees down. And so we realized also what needed to happen was backpackers to bring supplies out to people. And what else?
Vehicles to bring in, we needed side-by-sides. We needed, all those types. A lot of people with chainsaws to come in to clear roads out so people could access the public. And there's still 125 people as of today that still don't have power out just in Roan Mountain.
Yeah.
So and then they were doing like house to house to checking everybody to see if everybody was there. And, you can't get to this road, marking that off. And so there was, and for the first 3 days, it was just neighbors helping neighbors.
Yep. You came out with heavy equipment and made the driveway drivable at the station at 19 East, didn't you?
My husband did that. Yes.
Yeah. My husband.
Yeah. Yeah. I helped coordinate, but he was the one doing the work. So we came out with our tractor and helped make it drivable.
Yeah. Because, if you need to wait for a contractor to come out, you're still waiting.
Mm-hmm. There's so much work to be done. It's an overwhelming,
Yeah.
And then the average income I was looking on, I think it was Wikipedia. So if it's true, it's who knows. But the average income is only $17,000 a year So it's not a high wealthy
Wealth.
area. Yeah, there's not much wealth there. So to get that kind of work cost, we all know how much that cost. So all of these volunteers who are going up and helping, they are helping more than they have any idea how much these people really need it and how much they're blessed because of it. So
yeah, so the philosophy behind the help we've been giving from the Living Free in Tennessee community, the Self-Reliance Festival community, has been, how can we help the people that aren't going to get help? Because they have manufactured homes without insurance. And most of them also, if they had insurance, didn't have flood insurance because flood wasn't a danger really. So you wouldn't have insurance for that. And now they're stuck with insurance companies saying, we're not going to cover it. I think TEMA has been out and sort of saw.
FEMA just went out. I think it was this week. FEMA is out there.
Well, FEMA went out. TEMA went out a couple weeks ago, like Tennessee. Right. Yeah. And I think they just checked in and kept going.
I mean, Roan Mountain had some significant damage, but the real significant damage was in North Carolina. And so I think they were like, okay, well, these guys, the community's kind of got it here. They're kind of figuring it out. So we're going to just go where the need is exponential. And so there's only so many of them. So they kept a small skeleton crew in Roan Mountain and then sent the majority off to North Carolina.
There were reports that TEMA, that's the Tennessee one, was telling people not to bring aid and to leave it to them. And there was an official announcement saying, don't bring aid unless you're working with somebody on the ground, working with officials on the ground or a church. And the reason I think they said that is that it's the same thing. If you just come up there with a bunch of old natty clothes, that's not what they need. And you're just dumping garbage on a community, right? Or water that's been sitting in a hot storage shed for 4 years is not necessarily if you have nothing else, sure, but like all the plastic poisons that seep into that when it's not good. So they did make a statement about that and people got really mad, but I was like, I kind of see why, because I know everybody wants to help and they just load their cars and start driving, end up out there without gas to put in their car to get back out, end up out there without a plan for their own food and water and shelter, and then they become more of a burden. So by working with people on the ground in a location, which is what we require before we start sending people in as a community. And this comes from my background at CAC team. So that was always a thing. You have to have somebody you're communicating with who's there, who can ensure that what we're bringing is the right thing. Otherwise, we end up being a problem. And that's not our job, right? So
we've seen a lot of that. Like right now, I mean, everybody wants to help and it's fantastic. And we're uber grateful for it. But, you can only have so much water. You can only have so much food. You can only, and now the big needs are, rebuilding. So we have people who are in trailers that they're sleeping in a 9 cubic feet section because all of the underlining of the trailer is completely wiped out. And so they're walking on beams. Joists, just to get to where they need to go in their own little trailer. But people are still coming up like, hey, I've got a whole truckload full of supplies. And it's like, oh, we appreciate it.
Building supplies now.
Yeah. And so people are getting offended. Like they're not taking what I put all this effort and work into getting all these supplies. Hey, we really appreciate it. But right now that's not the need. The need is repairs and heavy equipment. And those needs may change later on, but that's why it's important to know what you're helping and know where you're helping and what the need is so you can be advantageous and diligent in that specific,
Bergen County Harley Davidson called me and said, I have a box truck we can fill up with supplies and bring. And it was sort of a week in advance that she reached out to me. And I'm like, yes, we need to do that, because if we can't take it in Roan Mountain, we can then link her in with Grindstone Ministries. But then by the time it had been a week, the needs had shifted. And so she ended up working with a Harley Davidson, I think in the Asheville area, to get the supplies to their location and then spread them out in Asheville, because the needs for food and water in Asheville are still way high, and in surrounding areas are very high.
Yeah.
Like they still need that. Further out, it's every couple days, it's shifting what's needed.
Yeah.
And so if you're planning a week out, it's too far out to know what they need.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And
Like
the
we can
power's
get,
coming on. So now there's generators, are not as needed, and the gas situation because you don't have the generators anymore, So yeah, the needs are constantly ever changing, and it's just being, and being able to react immediately and not that week later.
okay, Templin Acres asks the question I was expecting to come up, which is, do you have a local organization you can recommend to donate to or work with that is legitimate? Which is the right question to ask. We did raise money as a community through LFTN that pretty much everybody who donated to that I know, and I'd like to keep it that way because we are not a nonprofit. So like when we need money, the community has always pooled their funds and we get some stuff done. If you are wanting to donate to a nonprofit that's doing good work where most of the money is going to the people they're serving, I am recommending people work with Grindstone Ministries. That's grindstoneministries.com. Bear Independent is the one who founded that organization. We are in contact with him, and when we have extra help, we try to connect those people with him. They've got 114 volunteers on the ground doing things. Sean Mills is there right now helping to distribute goods, provide hot meals, chainsaw trees out of the way, rebuild it. They bring heavy equipment out. He's airlifted and airdropped things in. If you follow me on Facebook, you'll see me sharing other people who are just individuals with a Cash App account saying, hey, we just brought another airload full of Big Buddy heaters in, like Bob Lester has been doing that, who's somebody from our community. And when I'm sharing those, it's not just a random person. I'm sharing Bob's post for a reason because I know who Bob is and I know the money is going where he says the money is going. And he's been just running mission after mission after mission since it started. So if you want to trust, do not give to the Red Cross, give to Grindstone Ministries, and they are doing great work. They also have an application process where you can be deployed to help them. Their process for screening takes a while, and you have to be able to, if you're going to do a week of work, show up with enough supplies to sustain yourself for a week. Now, why would that be important, Jessica, that I come in with my gas and my food and my shelter and my water? And maybe a way to defend myself.
Yes, because you don't want to be a burden to the community that's already there. And something that we noticed, working in Paradise and now slowly noticing in Road Mountain areas, a lot of people who don't have are, the moocher type of people are coming in. And so you have to be careful. You have those looters type of people who just want those handouts. And unfortunately, there's so many great people that are helping out in every situation, but you do have those people who just want the free handouts too. And so you have to be careful, be protected, and don't be a burden. And then the people who went up to didn't have gas, they went and filled up their gas tanks at the local gas stations because they were open. Now their vehicles don't work. Now their chainsaws are broken because they were puddled with water. And so make sure if you're going to come up to help that you are fully sustained. You have, PB&Js packed. You have your gas cans full, ready to go. We had like 6 gas tanks just ready to bless people and then make sure that we had enough to get down the hill to get back home. So.
Yes, and we're running shorter missions as the Living Free in Tennessee and Self-Reliance Festival communities to Roan Mountain right now. We're still focused on Roan Mountain, although we've done some missions to other places where we happen to have the talent. They had the need. We could connect that right away. We'll do that for sure. But the reason we're focused on Roan Mountain, besides the fact we just have contacts there, is that it's a place where we can make a difference. Mm-hmm. And all that we need to do to rebuild in East Tennessee is anybody who knows they can make a difference as a community, adopt a town, adopt a family, start helping to make a difference and do the work.
Yeah, so I live 3 hours from Roan Mountain, and I partnered with a church, the First Baptist Church, the command post, and I helped create a form so anybody who's in Roan Mountain that needs assistance, they can go ahead and put their issues. They can upload photos of their concern, of their areas of need, and so then it automatically populates into a spreadsheet I created. All that project management experience that then auto populates. So that everybody at the church and myself, 3 hours away, we can see what is open, the database and the tasks like that. And then I then transcribe it into a program called Sign Up Genius, which will put the link here, that if there's anybody in the area that wants to see what jobs are open and see if they can help out. Most of them are heavy equipment. We've got like 6 or 7 bridges to people's houses. There's, there's the main road, and then they had the nice little stream at one point that was just a stream in their house with a little bridge that then became a raging river and took out the bridge. So they don't have access to their home or from their home to the street. We have like 6 or 7 of those. But we have a whole list. I think this morning I looked, there were 63 requests. So if you still have a heart of passion, of desire to look and see if you can help, you can look at the skill sets that are on there. I tried to put them based on skill sets and or equipment. So if you have a skid steer, if you have a chainsaw, you can just look down and find the chainsaw ones and see if that's something that you're willing and able to do. And then just go ahead and click it, say that that's what you're going to take. That's what you want to help. And then I will send you a text message with all the other information we have. I didn't want to put the homeowner's information on there. Or their phone numbers. So if you go ahead and select that bridge installation, you sign up, you'll get a text message from me a little bit later, and it'll have all that information. And then we're kind of like just the middleman. So then we expect you to call the owner and work those logistics out. So, but here is a list of all of the jobs that we currently have in Roan Mountain. And you can see some people have already signed up. And we just keep a running tally every night. I go in, I see what jobs have been done, I complete them, and every morning I go in and see what jobs have been asked, and I input them all. So
yeah, and so if you look here on the screen, they needed 3 people to clean up a location here, and it says full. That means, and 4 of us will be here 10:19 and 10:20 to clean up. So my favorite mission is the culvert rescue. Personally, right now, it's 100 feet down. So
that's actually station 19.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
I had to make that enjoyable.
So if you're going to go in to do debris removal, you don't want to be exposing your skin to the mud because you don't know what washed down the hill from a factory upstream that's in the mud now. So you want to have protective gear, gloves, that sort of thing. You may want a respirator if you're helping clean debris out of a building that's since started molding. You need to come with personal protective gear and your own shovel and maybe a wheelbarrow if you have one. But what you do is you talk to Mark Richardson here or whatever. I don't know if that's who it is.
And that's who volunteered to help that job.
That's who volunteered. So she'll put you in contact. You talk to them and say, what do you have on site? What do we need to bring? And then in addition to that, bringing enough gas to get you back down to an area where you can fill up with gasoline at a gas station that did not have water in their tanks, because water and gas is bad for your stuff. And they probably will tell you, hey, we have food. I always bring food anyway, because I don't know if I can eat their food because I have weird allergies, right? And so I bring all my own food. I, of course, come with a way to make coffee. It's just what I do because I love my coffee. But also be thinking about, do I need eye protection? Do I need ear protection? Do I need gloves? Do I need a reflective vest? Like all of these different things that you may not realize you need that at any other job site they'd hand to you. They're not handing that to you. You need to come with it. Right. And then if you find yourself in a situation that doesn't seem safe or is beyond your capacity, like Kurt did last weekend, just admit it. Right. So tell us what happened with Kurt last weekend and how it resolved.
Yeah, so Kurt was cutting down some trees. He went and he saw one that needed tree cutting. He's like, I got this. And so he went out there, saw the tree situation. He's like, well, I can handle these 2 trees. these are within my reach. But there was a really large tree that was leaning over someone's house. And he was like, as much as I want to help, I just don't think that that's going to be in my scope. And
this is how we break a roof.
Yes, it's not broken yet. So let's not, But that's how God works. And some guy showed up within 2 minutes and says, hey, do you need help cutting down this tree? I'm a professional tree cutter. And all of them worked together as a team and got that tree knocked down. It went right behind the house. And then Kurt and his teams went up and helped cut it down while the professional tree trimming crew who was volunteering went over to the next house to help them out. So if there's a will, there's a way. And God always works.
So it was like, we're going to do this thing. My next door neighbor was there too. And They went to do the thing and it was too much and they admitted it. And then a professional tree remover, just an arborist, wandered by and was like, I could do that.
Yep. Just happened to just stroll by. Hey.
Yeah, I'm here, guys. I got it.
Yeah.
So part of how the Living Free in Tennessee community is coordinating this is we have a Telegram group set up. It's t.me/LFTN flood. And I'm going to show you guys that too, if I can get this thingy to work. Hold on. It won't let me show Telegram. This is my sad face.
Mine too.
Yeah. Oh, wait.
Are we going to have happy faces?
Oh, there it is. Okay. Boom. Happy face. So what's happening here is people are here's pictures of the tree. This is like literally what they were doing. There's a video there. I think that's Kurt and his buddy bucking up trees, people encouraging a mayor who's been a huge helping us get in and getting other people from closer in. I mentioned people we were live today. Bear just went on with a list of what's been done by other people and FEMA taking credit for it. I'm going to go back and listen to his live stream later today. So he's the guy from Grindstone, right? It was great to have him at the Self-Reliance Festival because he was able to give us some intelligence there in his presentation. And we were able to send him with $3,000 cash to use for Grindstone that we raised there. There's another couple $100 that were handed to me after he left I just need to know if he wants it electronically or cash, and we'll figure that out. So, so cumulatively money I know we raised separate from any individual contributions y'all have just been giving to Grindstone and not telling me about. We raised about $4,000 of money in our community, and some of that hasn't been distributed. I was just talking to Jessica last night about sending half of it to a specific project where one of our community members has offered a place rent-free for a year for a family who needs it, who he knows. But it needs some, like the toilet's not in the bathroom right now. So it's like a trailer house. I think we're getting a list of what needs to be done to make it habitable. And he's like, they can live there rent-free while they rebuild their situation, which is fantastic. Mm-hmm. And then we think we should send the other half to Grindstone right now because Roan Mountain is past the we need food and supplies. So we'll be sending that suggestion out to everybody who donated and just kind of getting the yes or no from them. And then we'll pull the trigger on that. But we also need people who can do 1 and 2 day projects to go out and put in the toilet and rebuild the deck that's falling apart on that place so that a family can move in as soon as possible, or cut down trees like Kurt just did this weekend. Yeah. So you're going out tomorrow, aren't you, Jessica?
I think Thursday. I'm going
Thursday.
Out.
Okay. Yeah. What are you doing on Thursday?
I'm going to work with both. So there's 2 different churches that kind of partner together. So I'm going to be working with both of them, kind of helping, see if I can kind of offload a little bit of the work that I've been doing now that things have kind of slowed down a little bit on their end. And then helping out wherever they need me. I'm going to go with my food, my gas, and protection. And and just head up and be of assistance, whatever they need. But they know I'm coming, so they're ready for me.
This is where I mention if Nicole Sauce reaches out to you on Telegram or any other channel privately to raise money for this, that's not me. I will not do that. If you know me personally, like Kurt Duggar does, and I text him on his phone because we have each other's phone numbers and say, I actually need help, let's have a talk. That's how I would reach out. And it wouldn't be you who listens to my podcast, who I've talked to online a few times, maybe even met in person one time, reaching out on Telegram. But there are people creating fake accounts, Nicole Sauce accounts on Telegram. So Imposter Nicole is still on Telegram. I just saw somebody writing about Imposter Nicole, and I was like, oh yeah, I need to say that. I will never do that. I am never that desperate. And if I was that desperate, the people who would help me are people who I would be contacting a different way. So don't give her Bitcoin. Don't donate to if you go to the LFTN flood group and we say, this is how you give money, that's how you give money. But other than that, and it will be public and everybody can see it. Mm-hmm. So just saying that. Yeah. Temple is like, Imposter Nicole is still on Telegram. Imposter Nicole comes up with creative new ways to make a username that looks like Nicole Sauce. that is not, like, they'll use I's, uppercase I's instead of L's and all sorts of crazy stuff. And then I change my picture every so often just to make it hard for them.
People don't have enough things to do in their lives.
It feels very targeted.
Yeah.
But they do it to other people in our network too.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay. So was there a moment where you just felt so overwhelmed by the scale of what had to be done there? And like, what was that like?
Yeah, I think I handle stress pretty well. Like that's kind of just the way God made me. I'm able to navigate, but I didn't know anybody, right? So you have names, you understand what everyone's doing, where they live, who does this. And so I just kind of got thrown in the mix. I didn't know anybody from anybody. And I had to everybody assumed that I knew. And so I was just constantly asking questions. I probably asked, I don't know how many questions I asked because I wanted to have a better understanding. And so everybody was like, who is this? This girl asking all these questions. But once I got a handle of it, then I understood that who Kurt was, who Mary was, who Deb was, and all these different players in the piece that was making this magic happen. So initially, I think just trying to grasp my head around the whole project and the whole mission was overwhelming initially. But then once I just started just getting in there and getting my feet wet, then I kind of got an understanding. And then we had deliveries that were on their way up to Roan Mountain, and the church then said, hey, just kidding, we're done, we're not taking any more as of now. And it wasn't like, okay, tomorrow's the next day. Like that planning was probably not executed as best as it could have been. But then having to shuttle and realize and find other places that were in need, as we had semis on their way up to the mountain, was a little stressful, but nothing compared to what these other people are dealing with in their situations. So I just keep thinking of, it could have been our property. It could have been, a lot closer to home. So I'm grateful that I can help and have the little stress of figuring out where a supply truck has to go, then where's my family going to go? So.
Right. And the Homesteaders Alliance of East Tennessee has been working on livestock support.
Yep.
So they've been connecting displaced livestock with temporary places it can hang out, rounds of hay and feed and other things. Cause that's a whole nother, we're homesteaders, a lot of us. Right. And that's a whole nother scale. Like, yeah, you got out, but your sheep are all like, luckily sheep eat grass at this time of year, but they're all there. Fencing's down. Like, where are the sheep? Found the sheep. Now I need to put the sheep somewhere.
Yep.
So,
and they need to eat. And
yeah. So there's what do you see as a timeline, and what are the needs going to be for rebuilding in East Tennessee?
Oh, I'm not an expert in this, but just from my experience and just from what I've seen, it's gonna be a long process. It's gonna be, people going in weekend after weekend that they're available. If they can go in for a week, the more help they can get. But from what I've experienced, initially everyone's, oh, we got to go help. And then as time goes on, people stop that intention of going up to help. They think, oh, they're fine now. But that's not the case. We have so many people who are displaced, and, maybe their home is not rebuildable, but they need a place to call home. And they're trying to find, right now they're on a couch at their mom's house or something. And so the need is going to be it'll never look the way it did. And I was watching, I don't know if you watched Justin Rhodes. He's another podcaster, but he put something out yesterday, and it was talking about how they didn't just take his bridges. The storm didn't just take his bridges. It took his confidence, and it took his feeling like he bought a house in the mountains because he thought he was safe and he thought he was protected. And so now it's that vulnerability that will always forever live in him. And so not only is it physical, but it's also mental, and so these people have to work on, yes, building their house, but then again, working with the trauma of losing everything and having to get your child out of the house as the water's coming up, and, all of that. So it's going to be a long process to get this place rebuilt up.
There's guilt people feel when they got their child out of the house and their neighbor didn't too.
Right.
There's that going on. The news has vastly underreported how many people were killed at this point.
Yeah.
And And people who are missing. Some of them may still be found alive somewhere, but they're missing for a reason.
Mhm.
And they're probably not going to be found um, with the scale of what happened there. And that's something that I keep saying because people are not saying it.
Yeah.
Like there are
And
so many more dead people.
yeah. And then
Just
even
gone.
like being a homesteader, right? You have animals, and then, oh, I saved my family, but my dog or my cat, or, and it might not be another life, but still another human life, but still another life that they felt that they were responsible for. And, so there's so much of that mental aspect that people are going to have to work through, and, and take that time to really grieve and
Yeah,
work through it.
that doesn't happen overnight. In fact, people are probably just now coming out of the shock of like everything got turned upside down and now I feel depressed even though I'm alive. Now what do I do?
Yeah. And I have
And
nothing, all of my memories, all of my keepsakes, all of my, pictures, my photos, everything,
yeah. When my cousin came back to Paradise and found a charred family heirloom in the debris that wasn't completely, she was like, oh, now I'm really going to treasure this because it made it through the fire. But same thing, they lost everything. My aunt died. One of my aunts died recently, and we could not find childhood pictures of her because of that fire, because everybody who had pictures of her lost everything. And so we finally, like, the whole family's like going through all the photos we have to see if we can find some different photos of my aunt for her service, her memorial service. And it was just like, this would have been easier had we not had that fire. Just take them all out, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I've been looking right now. So people have been finding photos, and then they post it like, hey, I found this on this street, or I found this in this creek. And the community is a small community. And so people are like, oh my God, I know who they are. And
Yeah.
so these people are getting, reunited with this one photo they have left. And it's water damaged, but there's a picture of a family that I'm sure didn't really mean too much then, but now it's probably one of the only photos they have left. And now it's priceless. So
Yeah.
it's been cool to see, people reaching out to each other to try to find and put together these missed pieces.
Yeah. So Margot was just in the hurricane that came through Florida. She's like, I personally had a PTSD event with this recent one. We got super lucky, and that makes me feel bad for others. It's hard. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that doesn't, like, you'll always remember the flood.
Right.
In fact, for the audio podcast listeners, the song "The Flood" will be our outro. That I haven't played that song on the podcast in a long time, but it's about this. Yeah. Apparently it's about this before it happened, because I wrote the song 20 years ago. But yeah, put up your treasure in heaven, prayers for all that truly matter. Yep. So well, thanks for jumping on today. I definitely wanted people to get to know the face behind the powerhouse that's been keeping this going. Guys, if you want to we're going to be continuing to do things to help people rebuild.
Absolutely.
Probably for at least a year. Yeah. And the motivation to help is waning already, and it's going to continue waning. And anybody who feels like, I want to do a mission for a day or two, connect with us on Telegram. And even if it's 3 months from now that you can get that time off, we'll do our best to find the mission for you at that time. But I just see so much that needs to be rebuilt, and not a lot of insurance money or aid. Like, there is some aid trickling in, but Jessica pointed out, like, people had it way worse than the town we're helping, right? Like, they had it bad. But the further into the disaster area you get, the worse it is. So you can help by reaching out to Grindstone Ministries and working with them. grindstoneministries.com if you want to donate to them. And if you want to connect with us on some smaller scale projects that are probably 1 or 2 days, then join the Telegram group, t.me/LFTN group, flood, not a group. That's a different one. t.me/LFTN flood. And we'll just start that conversation as we find other ways that we can help people be able to cross the creek to their property, for example. Like when Jessica says bridges are gone, like, bridges are gone. They're just gone. And then, like, what can we do to help with that? Or putting a
And
new roof
maybe you
on
might not have the skills to do the bridge work, but there's a team that's going out and they just need some manpower. So if you don't have those skills and you just want to come out, we can look to see who's going out already, and we can put you in contact with them, and then they can let you know, hey, yes, we could use you. This is what you need to bring. Or, hey, I think we got this covered. And then you can reach out to us again, and we can keep that process until we can get you gainfully employed. So.
And I'm proud of the community for what you all have accomplished. I am proud of you, Jessica, for stepping up. And I don't even know how many hours you gave in the last 3 weeks to this effort, but thank you for that, because we also need that effort, right? We need the ideas, we need the power, we need to coordinate. Like what she put together with the spreadsheets and the forms has been indispensable as a tool. We need somebody who can help us put together a list of resources for people to reach out to in the East Tennessee area, so that it's easier to navigate ways to get help beyond just the help we can give. And that's all come from y'all being a network of doers and a community, and investing the time you've all invested in the last, 8 years of getting to know each other and doing hard things together. So I'm proud of the community. I'm kind of taken aback by what we were already able to accomplish. And I know we can do more for people. So thanks for all of that. Jessica, do you have like a website or anything that like, do you want to self-promote something you do separate from this?
Well, we just moved here in May. So, and I was telling her last night for dinner, we are first generation farmers. I'm originally from Hawaii. So,
Hawaii is a whole different topic, but not today.
I know. So we're learning how to do everything. So right now we have meat chickens and meat and egg chickens, and we're doing the chicken thing. And next year we're only gonna do one animal, like you suggested. I told my husband, he said, all right.
Oh, somebody's actually taking that advice from me.
Yes. We love advice. And so right now on the farm, we're gonna have some meat birds, and we're gonna have some all organic, no grain and no soy chickens, both meat and eggs. And then I'm making organic raw ice cream with a local company or local farmer who does raw milk. So if anybody's interested in getting ice cream that's delicious and only has like 6 ingredients, eggs or meat, let me know. And if you want to follow us on Instagram, I have a 3-year-old son that drives crazy cars and does things around the house with the chickens, and it's pretty interesting. So we're the Hidden Paradise Farms on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, Jessica, thank you again for everything you've done to help the people in East Tennessee get past over the hump of I need food and water to now we need to rebuild and clean up. It's been a pleasure working with you so far, and I look forward to what's going to happen next.
Well, I couldn't have done it without the community that you've built. So thank you for building that and letting me jump in and giving the keys to run it. So
yeah, I was like, here's my social media. You are now an admin. Don't say anything stupid. Bye.
Exactly what she said. All right, here we go.
I was like, here's all the resources. Go.
Yeah. And the church gave me their link to their website. I went and created a page on their website, got their donation thing set up. So, I've got a lot of keys, but I'm blessed to be able to help where I can. So.
Well, I made the right choice trusting you with the keys, because you didn't ruin all my stuff. So thanks.
I did.
Like, hope this works. Cool, guys. Well, if you like the show and want to support the work we're doing here, you can get your coffee at hollerroast.com or consider becoming a member. We are actually just relaunching the member portal with a different whole system. So if you are an existing member, you're going to start seeing some emails coming from me about setting you up on the new system. I've just been in there testing it yesterday, and I'm pretty stoked about that. And our next member webinar is in about 3 weeks with Ryan Steva from the Homestead Consultant. He's going to talk about how to develop off-grid water on your homestead. So that's all over at livingfreeintennessee.com. With that, guys, go out, make it a great week.